Hello, my name is Mickey Stevens, and I'm going to be talking about Japan and the United States during the Meiji Restoration and World War II. Japanese immigrants started to come to the United States in the 1880s. Once the Meiji Emperor allowed Japanese citizens to immigrate, they came to the United States in order to relocate, acquire land, and become American citizens. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 prohibited Chinese immigrants from working in the United States. This gave the Japanese a chance to work on sugarcane and pineapple fields. After a couple of years, Americans began to blame the Japanese for stealing their jobs, so they protested immigrants and demanded that their jobs be taken away from them. Over the next several decades, many laws and acts were passed to lessen the rights of the Japanese immigrants. But this was just the beginning of their troubles in the United States. In the 1930s, the United States was dealing with the Great Depression while Japan was becoming increasingly militaristic. Emperor Hirohito made himself a religious figure and forced propaganda onto his people that highlighted racial superiority and prompted the idea of world domination. Japanese immigrants in the United States did not agree with Hirohito's tactics and ideals. This is when the feud between Japan and the United States started to boil over. On December 7, 1941, hundreds of Japanese fighter planes attacked Pearl Harbor, a U.S. Navy base located in Hawaii. This surprise attack changed the lives of Japanese Americans forever. The very next day, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared war on Japan and its allies, and on February 19, 1942, he signed Executive Order 9066. This executive order allowed for the authorization of Japanese relocation nationwide. More than 110,000 Japanese American citizens and Japanese immigrants were evacuated to assembly centers and taken to one of 10 internment camps around the western and central regions of the United States. These internment camps, which contained several thousands of people, were large, but multiple families were packed into small barracks. Residents made the best of what they had and lived peacefully among each other, and guards had to keep residents in line, which caused very few riots. Before the camps and World War II, the Meiji Restoration in Japan was a time of rapid industrialization and modernization. Japan went from militaristic rule to direct imperial rule. Emperor Meiji brought political, economic, and social change to Japan. The westernization of Japan during this time opened Japan to Europe, which they pulled a lot of influence from. One way that Europe influenced Japan was through literature. European influence pushed Japanese prose fiction into a new direction which focused on psychological realism. Colloquial language, rather than formal language, took over as the most popular way of writing. Japanese writers also started to write stories about working-class people rather than samurai or people of the high court. Another form of writing that was popularized during this time was the I-novel. These were writings that were based off of the author's real life but included details that didn't actually happen. This also started a trend of naturalist writings. After World War II, Japanese literature became even more global and took influences from all over the world. Modern Japanese writers travel around the world to write, and Japanese immigrants continue to follow Japanese authors' footsteps and open their influences to global ideas and inspirations.